जय हिंद भारत माता की जय दोस्तों. We are back again with the new episode of Never Say Die series. So Never Say Die attitude also gets developed because of one very important reason in every soldier, that every soldier thinks country always comes first and self at last. So while in uniform, they of course carry out all the duties considering this fact in mind, but then it becomes an integral part of the personality. And some of us, even after hanging the uniform, carry out with the same grit and perseverance to keep serving the country selflessly and ensuring that each and every part of the country is becoming even more beautiful. One such personality is Colonel Christopher Rego. Let's welcome Colonel Christopher Rego on the show. Sir, Jai Hind and welcome to the show.
Jai Hind, DP.
Sir, to begin with, as I understand, you are the fourth generation officer. So now with so much of experience of generations, do you understand that a personality gets changed because of the training in the various military academies?
I absolutely think so, DP. I think the life of every soldier is dramatically and drastically changed by the training he undergoes and by the many years that he spends in service. I think first is the courage and tenacity, which is way beyond the ordinary that develops. So that courage is something that remains with you. It's not only a physical courage, it's a mental courage that you have for the rest of your life. Another thing that comes through very strongly is, I would say, the moral character. And this is things like integrity and loyalty. We have to remember that in service, as buddies, our lives depend on each other. And it's a huge characteristic to have this integrity and loyalty. And a third thing, which I can say that has personally affected me through these generations, is that when you join the army, you leave all the parochial things behind, of community, where you come from, religion, the whole world, everybody becomes your religion, You have a broad-mindedness. You don't just tolerate diversity, you actually celebrate it. The spirit of adventure also gets teased while you're in the army. You're always searching for something new. I never let a leave go by while I was in the army, especially when I was a bachelor. So it was out on trek, it was traveling, and occasionally I did a few serious things also. For instance, if you remember, there were big earthquakes that happened, say, I think in September 1993 in Latur in Maharashtra. And a similar earthquake happened in Bhuj in 2001. I took leave during those two earthquakes, and I was in each of these zones for 10 days. Again, thanks to the army for this absolute sense of adventure.
I also understand, sir, larger part of your service, larger time of your service, you have spent in Northeast. What is that connect you found in yourself getting attracted towards the Northeast?
So our Northeast is a place of, spectacular natural beauties. It's the mountains, rivers, forests, and there's also the immensely diverse culture among so many different tribes and communities, state to state, even within the states. But then, on the other hand, there are parts of our Northeast that have been plagued with violence since decades. All in all, it's a mixed bag, but I am so fortunate indeed that I got to spend such a beautiful time during my 2 tenures in the Northeast.
But you continued serving there even after getting retired. What made you take that decision that you want to establish yourself in Northeast area of our country?
A very big reason was that many of the next generation, the children, were not getting a chance to get to school. Two issues of the physical access to school and the financial access to school were two very big factors that were affecting people over there. And my wife and I decided, let's be the difference. To make that difference, let's start sponsoring the children. We also thought that this is a beautiful way to get closer to the local community, and that's exactly the way it happened. These children started doing very well in their studies. We got to know their parents. We got invited into their communities. Soon people who are close to us, our relations, our friends, my classmates joined in this venture. The numbers of children being sponsored increased greatly. And that is how we chanced upon this idea of peace through education, whereby we can make a difference through education.
Who was that first lucky kid whom you supported in the beginning?
He happened to be the son of a vegetable seller. His mother was a vegetable seller and his father was a carpenter. I asked him and he said that, sir, I have plans to go to America to study hard there, get some qualifications, come back and work with my people. So I said, wow, this is some big ideas. But then when my wife and I saw this kid and saw his potential, he said there's something special. And one fine day he came home and said that, sir, I've got admission to this university in Oregon in America. So this
You mean to say a boy who was a kid of vegetable seller,
yes,
got admission in University of America?
Absolutely, through his own merit and through his own efforts.
Superb.
Yeah. And he didn't have the finances for that. He gave us a hint. So my wife and I decided that this guy's going to be something in life. Let's help him. So we had just got a sum of money, for our transfer to Mizoram and whatever. And we said, okay, let's put it at his disposal. It was quite a considerable sum of money. And a week later, 10 days later, this boy was off to the USA. And we had told him just one thing. This is a loan. When you have the opportunity and when you start earning, we don't want any interest. Just give it back to us so that we could use it for another child. And he said, sure. And less than 2 years later, when I was leaving for Mizoram, I happened to mention it to him. He said, no, so wait, my parents are coming to meet you. And they came the next day with a small packet, a pumpkin and a shawl for us. And this was the money. So I called him and I said that you're still studying and you've given me back the money. He said, no, sir, I've worked. I've done all these extra duties on the campus. The next thing that he said was that, sir, if you feel okay, there's another friend of mine doing his master's in computer applications and he's struggling quite a bit. If you could pass on this loan to him, I'll be really happy. So that is where my wife and we thought that our money in the bank is only getting interest. Whereas here it was actually making lives. That was the seminal moment, I would say. There is a same hunger for education wherever you go in the Northeast. It is the realization that perhaps this is the route to liberation from the financial difficulties and all the other difficulties, even the violence that they may face. And to give you an example of the extent to which people go, their children who are staying in the remote areas have to go to school, which is miles away. So there is no other choice but to stay in a hostel. But the hostels are so expensive that these people cannot afford to put their children there. And so we get this particular breed of children called self-help children. Believe it or not, you have children right from their 5th and 6th standards staying in huts in villages where the schools are there, next to another family, living by themselves, cooking by themselves, and going to school. And it is astonishing how their parents come, leave them a sack of rice, chop them some firewood, once in a week. And these kids go into the forest, pick up some mushrooms or some leaves, go down to the stream and pick up a little bit of fish or snails and live by themselves. So that is the hunger for education that is there.
So after hand-holding one kid and making a chain of hand-holding the other, what was the next bigger step which you took?
I'm happy to say that from that group of children right way back from 2004 and 2005, we have a super specialist doctor, we have a lawyer, we have an MBA, and many others, children who are in like that. So the next step that logically happened was, okay, now people started sponsoring us. And as you may know that today, we are sponsoring as many as 3,300 children. This innovative idea which I had of peace through education, this got recognized by this international award called the Ashoka Fellowship. And I got that in 2016 from South Asia. So we started building schools and hostels in the remotest areas. When I say remote, there is even one place where we are managing to complete the school with the help of elephants. Yes, elephants, because vehicles can't get to that location, and they use the elephants for pulling these dogs to make the schools. So that is the type of change that has happened. And we realized that every school and every hostel that we create is a hub for change for 8-10 villages from where the people send their children from.
Can you share your experience of building that first hostel? Was it the hostel or the school which you built the first?
From a tiny village called Ejairong, high up in the hills in the western part of Manipur, the tribal people came to me and said, sir, we've heard about your work. Can you please visit our village and help us with the school and the hostel over there? So it was quite a surprise to me because that was an area known to be right in the, the conflict zone where there were things like ambushes and whatever. And here I was still as a serving officer. But I took this leap of faith. I saw their sincerity and they said, sir, we don't have money, but we have the forest. This belongs to us. This is our village property. We will give you wood. We will dig out the stones from our field and we'll give you the stone for construction. And we will give you a voluntary labor as well. I went to the Assam Rifles and they gave me these beautiful pre-painted tin sheets. The border roads helped me with a little bit of cement and other resources. The army helped me with the transportation. And all of our stakeholders got together and we built that beautiful hostel in just 6 months' time.
You made two rival tribals come to each other with peace. How did you ensure that part?
I'm not going to name tribes over here. This was a village which had seen violence as recently as the 1990s, where they had clashed with the neighboring tribe and many people were killed. Just by chance, I happened to be working with both the communities. And I broached this idea. I said, now isn't it time to leave the baggage of the past? Why should the children carry this burden with them? And both of them were very excited. They said, sir, please tell us how. So in the village where we had the hostel, so I said that it's part of your culture. Forgiveness is part of your culture, part of your religion. Why don't you let this flow? So they said, sir, what would you like us to do? So I said, let those children come here. They're also struggling to go to school. They don't because they don't have a hostel. Why don't we bring some of those children over here? Then we spoke to the women's groups in both the villages. And they were both very excited. The women actually met and discussed. And a decision was taken that they would warmly look after the children and there would be no trouble of any sort.
So you so simply and easily conveying these stories as if it was so easy for you to do. I'm sure there must be a lot of frustration and at times, demotivation must be setting in, not seeing the things happening as per your desire. How were such moments and what made you rise again above those frustrated moments?
And I think we learn that every time you have a failure and every time this frustration comes, it's a learning and it's a step to improving and to getting things better. I say if you have the passion, the means will follow. So that's what happened in our case. We really had this eagerness to do what we did. We were so well accepted by the local people. We showed them the way and all these difficulties just went away.
I want to understand that who was that first youngster who joined you and how did that happen?
So when I was still in the army and I had built this hostel, I had these interns who wanted to come and stay at the hostel and work with the children in the holidays. And they were from this organization called Teach for India. So suddenly I get a call from this 23-year-old girl from Kerala. And she's a BITS Pilani graduate. So she called me up and said, sir, I've heard so much about your organization from my roommate who's also intern with you that I'm absolutely determined that I should come and work with you. So I said, madam, I'm sorry. I think that's a wrong number. You're a BITS Pilani graduate. You're a Teach for India fellow. And we are an organization that has no salaries. We're just working in the middle of the forest in a conflict area. She said, sir, I know all about that. And that is the reason why I want to join you. And if you can't pay me a salary, it's okay. Just give me a roof over my head and give me food and I will come and work over there. And we asked her, when would you like to join? So she said, sir, I'll join from tomorrow. I said, madam, we are sitting in Bangalore and that place is in the northeast. She said, you don't worry. So she jumped in a train all the way from Bangalore and reached our little village over there and stayed with us for a full year. And she was a pioneer and she made an amazing difference because she was the first outsider in that village. She created a major impact. She became a daughter of the village. And thanks to the example and thanks to her pioneering work, it started a flood of youngsters joining us after that.
So with so much of experience and working across the country, initially in the army and now as a socialpreneur in the northeastern region, what is your message to the larger country and precisely to the youngsters?
The big message that I would like to give, we are all part of a process that is happening, work in progress of making and building our country. This is all nation building. And for that, it calls for a lot of broad-mindedness, a lot of understanding. It calls for a bit of sacrifice for our young people to go and be the difference. We don't need armchair philosophers on social media giving big messages, talking about politics and talking about, things that divide us. We need the action from this young girl that I mentioned to you and my 20 other team members who have come, sacrificed everything to be there and to make that difference.
Thank you so much, sir. It was superb and very satisfying knowing that what type of variety of work which you are doing in the northeastern part of the country, which is bringing peace through education, and you're spreading so much of happiness in so many families. Our good wishes for all your future endeavors also, and to all your team members and their families, sir. Thank you so much for being with us. Jai Hind.
Jai Hind, DP. Jai Hind.
So this was Colonel Christopher Rego, who might have got retired, but he never got tired in keeping the country first. As in his own words, if you are compassionate, if you are passionate about your work, even universe conspires and support come from all around. You should be focused only on your goal. Anything and everything is possible. Next week, we will meet with another such brave personality who carries the never say die attitude of the soldier. Till then, take care of yourself. Jai Hind, Bharat Mata ki Jai.